We're going to practice 4 fraction questions that students should know by the end of grade 8. I understand that math can be challenging to tackle alone. This channel is here to support and assist you or your child in learning math. What you'll need: a pencil, download our video worksheet, link in the comments, or use your own piece of paper, and time to use your brain, so no calculators are allowed. Here's a look at 4 fraction questions that we're going to solve. Feel free to pause and solve the question on your own first, or watch Ms. John guide you through the solutions. Feel free to use the timestamp below to go directly to the answer key. Question number 1. Reduce these 2 fractions into lowest terms. Let's go through the steps. Step 1, you're going to find the GCF. You're going to use the GCF to reduce through division. So let's do A. We're going to reduce 3 over 18. So again, we're going to first find the GCF. And remember, GCF is greatest common factor. So we're going to first find the GCF of 3. So the factors of 3 are 1 times 3. Therefore, the factors are 1 and 3. Now let's find the GCF of 18. So if we break down 18, we get 1 times 18 equals 18. Then we got to think about, okay, does 2 times something equal 18? Hopefully you got 2 times 9 equals 18. Then you also have to think about 3 times something equal 18, and then you do. So 3 times 6 equals 18. And then you could think about, does 4 times something equal 18? And the answer is no. So we could conclude that these are the factors of 18. So the factors are 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 18. So now we're going to look at the GCFs of 3 and 18, the common factors for 3 and 18. And the common factors for 3 and 18 are 1 and 3. And now we got to find the greatest common factor. So the greatest common factor is 3. So the highest number out of 1 and 3 is 3. Therefore, we're going to go to step number 2. So that's going to use the GCF through division. So again, the GCF of 3 and 18 is 3. Now we're going to divide the top number, also known as the numerator, by 3. And now we're also going to divide the denominator by 3. So remember, whatever you do to the top, you must do to the bottom. So 3 divided to 3 equals 1. 18 divided into 3 equals 6. So the answer is 1 over 6. Now let's do the other fraction, 2 over 5. So let's first find the GCF. So again, we're going to find what are the factors of 2. So what times what equals 2? 1 times 2 equals 2. So the factors of 2 is 1 and 2. Now we're going to find the GCF of 5. So what times what equals 5? 1 times 5 equals 5. Then you can think, does 2 times 5 equal 5? Not at all. So we can conclude that only 1 times 5 equals 5. So the factors of 5 is 1 and 5. So now we're going to look at what are the common factors. So for both 2 and 5, the common factor is 1. And then now we have to say what is the greatest common factor, and the highest common factor is still 1. So now we're going to do step number 2, which is use the GCF to reduce through division. The GCF for 2 and 5 is 1. So we're going to divide both the top and bottom by 1. So 2 divided by 1 equals 2. 5 divided by 1 equals 5. So the answer is the same. Question number 2, 16 over 25 minus 7 over 25. So let's go through the steps of subtracting like fractions. Step number 1, rewrite the bottom number in the fraction to the answer section. Step number 2, subtract the top number and solve for the answer. Let's determine which numbers represent the numerator and the denominator. So the top number is also known as the numerator, and the bottom number is also known as the denominator. So just remember, numerator equals top number, denominator equals bottom number. So let's start with the first step. Rewrite the bottom number in the fraction to the answer section. So the bottom number of both fractions, because they're like fraction, is 25. So we're just going to move that 25 over to the answer section. Now let's do step number 2. which is subtract the top number and solve for the answer. Let's draw a rough box, and in that rough box, we're going to write 16 minus 7. 16 minus 7 equals 9. So now let's move that 9 on the top of the fraction in the answer section. So the answer is 9/25. Question number 3. We're going to do 3/4 times 2/8. Let's first go through the steps to multiply unlike fractions. I'll give you a little hint. It's the same as multiplying like fractions. So step number 1, multiply the top numbers together. Step number 2, multiply the bottom numbers together. Step 3, if necessary, simplify. So we're going to multiply the top numbers together. So let's write 3 times 2. So those are the two top numbers in the fractions we're multiplying. Now we're going to multiply the bottom numbers together. So let's write down the two bottom numbers of these fractions. So 4 times 8. So now let's draw a rough box and solve for the answer. First in the rough box, we're going to write 3 times 2. 3 times 2 equals 6. So let's move the 6 to the top of the fraction in the answer section. Now let's draw another rough box. And in this rough box, we're going to write 4 times 8. 4 times 8 equals 32. So now let's write 32 in the bottom part of the fraction in the answer section. Step 4 is simplify if necessary. And in this case, we can simplify 6 and 32. Remember, in order to simplify, we must find the GCF of 6 and 32. So let's find the GCF of 6. So we got to find out what are the factors of 6. So if we start with 1, we know that 1 times 6 equals 6. If we think about 2, we know 2 times 3 equals 6. If you think about 3, we already did it, so that's 3 times 2. And then we got to think, does 4 times anything equal 6? No. So we know we can stop there. So the factors of 6 are 1, 2, 3, and 6. Now we're going to look at what is the GCF of 32. So what times what equals 32? We know that 1 times 32 equals 32. Then we got to say 2 times what equals 32, which is 2 times 16 equals 32. Then we got to think about, does 3 times anything equal 32? And it does. 3 times 12 equals 32. And now we got to think, does 4 times anything equal 32? And we do know that 4 times 8 equals 32. Does 5 times anything equal 32? And it doesn't. We know we could stop there anyways because at the end of the day, the factors of 6 is not a lot. So we're probably going to find a greatest common factor using the numbers we have here. Therefore, the factors of 32 are 1, 2, 4, 12, 16, and 32. So what are the common factors of 6 and 32? The common factors are 1 and 2. And therefore, what is the greatest common factor? And the greatest common factor is 2. Now we know we're going to divide 6 and 32 by 2. So 6 divided by 2 equals 3. 32 divided by 2 equals 16. Therefore, the answer is 3/16. Question number 4. 3/4 plus 2/8. Let's first determine what are the steps to add unlike fractions. Step number 1, find the LCM. Step number 2, use the LCM to make the denominators the same. Step number 3, write the bottom number in the converted fraction to the answer section. Step number 4, add the numbers together. And step number 5, if necessary, simplify. So let's first start with finding the LCM. So we got to find the LCM of 4 and 8. So we're going to determine the LCM of 4 and 8. So in order to look at the LCM of 4 and 8, unlike the greatest common factor where you find the factors of the number, we're actually going to determine what are the multiples, the common multiples of 4 and 8. So we're going to first find the multiples of 4. So let's find the multiple of 4. So multiple of 4, you're just literally going through the 4 times table. So 4 times 1, 4 times 2, 4 times 3, 4 times 4. So 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12. A lot of people ask me, when do you stop? The more you do this, you'll realize that I didn't really need to do 4 times 8. I could have stopped at 4 times 2. But that's through time and practice. Now we're going to find the multiple of 8. So the multiples 8 are, and we're just going to go 8 times 1 equals 8. 8 times 2 equals 16. And we're just going to stop there. So what is the lowest common multiples? The lowest common multiples there is 8. Now that we know that the LCM is 8, we're going to make sure that the bottom numbers in both fractions is equal to 8. So in order to do that, we got to do 4 times what we said above to equal 8. So again, step number 2 is using the LCM to make the denominators the same. We're going to do 4 times 2. And remember what we do to the bottom, we must do to the top. So that means we're going to do 3 times 2, which equals 4 times 2 equals 8. We're going to move the 8 to the new fraction. And then 3 times 2 equals 6. We're going to move that to the new fraction. Now we're going to times these two by 1. So remember, whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. 8 times 1 equals 8. 2 times 1 equals 2. So now we have both of the denominators, which are the same. So now we're going to do step number 3, which is rewrite the bottom numbers in the converted fraction to the answer section. So the converted fraction is 6 over 8 plus 2 over 8. So now we're just going to simply move that 8 over to the fraction in the answer section. Now we're going to do step number 4, which is add the top numbers. So let's draw that rough box. And in that rough box, we're going to write 6 plus 2. 6 plus 2 equals 8. So now we're going to write the 8 on the top number of the answer section. And now we're going to do step number 5, which is, if necessary, simplify. So this one's actually super easy to do. And so what we're going to do is draw the rough box. And in that rough box, we're literally just going to divide 8 divided into 8. So 8 divided into 8 is equals 1. And now we're going to put that 1 in the final answer section. And the answer is 1. When you're like, why did we not find the GCF like we did in the other question? Why did we just divide by 8? This is an example of, the more you practice these types of questions, the more you will just know that you do not need to find the GCF. You can literally divide the two fractions by itself. And a lot of you guys might recall already learning this and know that when you have two of the same numbers as the numerator and the denominator, they make a whole, which is a 1. Okay, so the final answer is 1. Here's the answer key. If you got an answer wrong, use a timestamp to go back and check your solution. Good job at taking ownership over your education. You did it! See you in the next video.